Let's talk about stories, the ones that shape who we are. For too long, Africa's stories were ignored or only valued when discovered by outsiders. In 1989, a group of African writers gathered in Accra, Ghana, and said, "Enough." They founded the Pan-African Writers Association, PAWA, to unite the continent's voices. The African literary scene was fragmented, disconnected. PAWA aimed to change that. Their vision, a blueprint for unity, from Lagos to Cape Town, Timbuktu to the Serengeti. Our stories, in all their diversity, are the foundation of our identity. PAWA became the home for every African storyteller who'd ever been told their voice was too small. It was a radical act, claiming the right to tell our own stories in our own languages on our own terms. The founding of PAWA was a promise. Our stories matter, our voices are united, and we are just getting started. This was about more than literature. It was about reclaiming the narrative of a continent. The air in Accra was electric with possibility. Writers, poets, and playwrights gathered, not just to talk, but to build. They envisioned a future where every African child could see themselves as the hero of their own story. PAWA was born as a sanctuary, a megaphone, and a movement, and with that, Africa's literary uprising began. Every revolution has its heroes, and PAWA's founders were literary legends. Chinua Achebe gave us the courage to challenge colonial narratives. Atukwe Okai, Ghana's poet and PAWA's first Secretary General, turned vision into action. Wole Soyinka brought moral force and a fierce defense of human rights. Women like Ama Ata Aidu ensured African women's voices were central to the movement. Ngugi wa Thiong'o's advocacy for decolonizing African literature and promoting indigenous languages laid the ideological foundation for the creation of PAWA. His Pan-African vision and literary activism deeply influenced the association's mission to unify and empower African writers. Nadine Gordimer, a South African anti-apartheid writer and Nobel laureate, influenced the creation of PAWA through her fearless literary activism and commitment to social justice. Her international stature and bold critique of oppressive regimes inspired African writers to see literature as a liberation tool and unite under a continental body like PAWA. These founders and pioneers knew true freedom means telling our own stories, and they passed that torch to us. PAWA's mission is bold: to celebrate Africa's literature in every language and defend the freedom to write. It's about making sure a poem in Gikuyu is as valued as a novel in English. PAWA stands up for writers facing censorship or danger. If you come for one, you come for all. The oral tradition, griots, storytellers, performance poetry, is honored and preserved. PAWA fights for cultural sovereignty, building our own publishing houses, prizes, and networks. We're not just a chapter in world history. We're a library, opening our doors on our own terms. Our stories, written and spoken, are the heartbeat of our identity. PAWA is here to keep that heartbeat strong. How do you unite a continent as vast as Africa? PAWA's answer: think local, act continental. With headquarters in Accra, PAWA branches out through 5 regional arms: North, South, East, West, and Central Africa, each with its own projects and leadership. This structure lets PAWA respond to local needs, support regional festivals, and foster collaboration. It's a living network, not a top-down system, and it doesn't stop at Africa's shores. The sixth arm, WAFOD, connects the African diaspora worldwide. This model lets a poet in Mogadishu find solidarity with a novelist in Maputo. It's how we share, translate, and stand together. Power's blueprint turns a continental dream into reality. What about African writers abroad? Enter WAFOD, the Writers of the African Diaspora Foundation. WAFOD is Power's bridge to the global African family, connecting writers in London, Toronto, Atlanta, São Paulo, and beyond. It's a home for diaspora writers, offering community, mentorship, and publishing opportunities. WAFOD celebrates every genre and every story because African identity is global. Whether you're a first-generation immigrant or your ancestors left centuries ago, WAFOD is your literary home. It's about making sure diaspora voices are woven into the Pan-African conversation. By bringing everyone together, Power and WAFOD make the literary family whole. Every African story, everywhere, has a place to shine. The legacy is powerful, but the work isn't done. African writers still face censorship, limited access, and the risk of cultural amnesia. Power and WAFOD are more vital than ever. Our collective voice, our shield, our platform. Join the movement. Find your regional power, connect with WAFOD, and don't write in isolation. Share your work, mentor others, organize readings, contribute to Africa's great library. The future of African literature is ours to build together. Your story matters. Every word is an act of reclamation. You stand on the shoulders of giants and beside thousands of writers worldwide. Pick up your pen, tell your story, join us, let's make history. Please take some time to read the accompanying blog to understand what Power and WAFOD truly stand for and how you can position yourself as an African writer with the gift to support growth and change. You're welcome.
Okay, let's give some time. The room. Oh, we see Nisam who has joined. Welcome. Since the room is still populating, let's just give some time.
We can give up to about 10 minutes. That will be fine.
You know, the media team is even not in. Okay, they will come in now. Let's listen to our upcoming
book title,
release.
My Intelligence Grew Faster Than My Pocket. Subtitle, The Journey of a Quiet Genius Through Poverty, Rejection, and Unnoticed Growth. A mind quietly climbing. James Ubuntu never set out to become an example. He just didn't want to stay stuck. From an early age, it was clear that his mind worked differently. While other children asked what was for dinner, James asked why hunger even existed. It wasn't that he was better. He was simply wired to notice things that others ignored. His curiosity became his fuel, and eventually his burden. He was born into a structure that didn't know what to do with brilliance unless it came with wealth or a title. James had neither. What he had was a growing mind and a heart that refused to shrink. He quickly outgrew small talk. He outgrew shallow friendships. He even outgrew the local systems that were designed to contain, not develop. But with growth came loneliness, and his intelligence often looked like defiance to those who didn't understand it. Each of James's 5 growth pillars came with a cost. Mentally, he pushed himself to learn things no one around him valued. Socially, he drifted to the margins, misunderstood and mislabeled. Emotionally, he learned to survive long stretches of silence after being ignored. Physically, his body adjusted to the reality of lack. He took long walks to clear his head. He ate less, not by choice, but by discipline shaped in scarcity. Spiritually, he found clarity in prayer and learned to recognize the quiet miracles that kept him going. James asked for help. That part matters. He didn't walk through pain in silence because he was too proud. He reached out, explained his situation, even pleaded when necessary. But life can be noisy, and most people are focused on their own needs. When help didn't come, he learned to keep moving. Not because he was strong, but because stopping wasn't an option. In time, his results started to speak louder than his requests ever did. Some people asked why he hadn't said anything earlier. Others claimed they didn't notice anything was wrong. That was when James learned a hard truth. When you grow in silence, people often miss your struggle, but show up for your success. And once you've been through both, you start to see people differently. This book is about that journey. It shows how growth can happen even when no one is watching, and how becoming your best self often begins in the dark. The story of James Ubuntu is for the quiet minds, the ones who are brilliant but overlooked, gifted but under-resourced. It is for those who are not lazy, just unseen. You may never be fully understood. You may have to build with your own hands in spaces that were never built for you. But you are not invisible. You are not broken. You are not too late. Growth takes time. It takes pressure. And sometimes, it takes walking alone. If that is where you are, let this story remind you that there is purpose in the process. Even if the crowd never notices, keep building. Keep climbing. The silence won't last forever.
Hello. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Hello, we're just giving some time for people to enter. 5 more minutes and then we'll start.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Morning.
How writers
Morning.
can quiet inner noise and find clarity through environment, perspective, and spirit. Writers write to solve problems, disrupt stagnation, and help shape growth. A single phrase can break an old way of thinking. A well-crafted paragraph can breathe fresh life into tired conversations. Our words carry the power to influence, heal, and challenge. But they only carry that power when they are born from a mind and spirit at peace. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and constant demand, the challenge for writers is not only finding time to write, but finding the inner stillness to listen to our conscience, to our creativity, and sometimes to something greater than ourselves. The following are 6 ways to create an environment, both external and internal, where your words can thrive. 1. Anchor your writing with a ritual. Rituals are not about superstition, they are about rhythm. They signal to your mind and body that it is time to write. This could be as simple as lighting a candle, taking a few deep breaths, making a specific cup of tea, or putting on instrumental music you reserve only for writing sessions. Over time, your brain begins to associate this ritual with focus and flow. On a deeper level, rituals help align your thoughts and emotions, creating a settled inner atmosphere where your creativity can unfold naturally. 2. Invite awe into your workspace. Awe is that sacred pause when you are reminded that the world is bigger than your deadlines or doubts. It might come through watching the ocean, standing before a piece of art, or hearing a single line of poetry that stops you in your tracks. Psychologists describe awe as a self-transcendent emotion. It shifts your focus from yourself to something greater. Spiritually speaking, awe can help you rise above mental clutter and reconnect with a sense of meaning and purpose. Fill your writing space with objects that evoke this feeling. A framed quote, a painting that stirs something deep, or even a window view that greets you with sunrise. Awe opens the door for bigger, braver words. 3. Let nature breathe into your words. Nature is not simply a backdrop. It is a quiet collaborator in our creative process. A soft breeze, the steady shade of a tree, the scent of fresh earth. These elements seem small, but they can slow racing thoughts and open mental space for story and reflection. Scientific studies show that exposure to green spaces reduces rumination, the repetitive mental loops that drain creativity. For writers, that means fewer hours wrestling with self-doubt and more time in creative flow. If you cannot work in a forest or garden, bring nature to you. A vase of flowers, the sound of rain, a photograph of a quiet river. Even a single living plant can remind you that growth comes in quiet, steady ways. 4. Change the scene when the mind feels heavy. Sometimes, the weight of thoughts is tied to the chair you're sitting in or the walls you've been staring at. Shifting location, even briefly, can lift that weight. Write in a cafe where life hums in the background. Take your journal to a park bench or work by a sunny window you've never used before. These small changes reset your senses and can break the cycle of mental stagnation. You return to the page with fresh angles, new language, and a revived sense of possibility. 5. Declutter your space. Free your mind. Chaos in your environment competes for your attention. A desk buried under papers, coffee cups, and half-finished tasks mirrors the confusion in the mind. Decluttering is more than cleaning. It is a conscious act of creating room for thought, focus, and inspiration. Order is comforting. It reassures the mind that there is space to breathe and freedom to think. Clearing the clutter can be a small but powerful way to honor your creative work and give it the respect it deserves. 6. Guard the gate of your thoughts. Christian perspective. The inner voice is not always your ally. Sometimes it speaks truth and encouragement when it's the conscience, but other times it becomes an unwelcome guest, accusing, distracting.
Okay. So I think we should start, no matter the attendance at this point. So let's just be greeting as the people come in. You are welcome. Good morning. My name is Dr. Ango Fomuso. I'm the coordinator of WAFOT, the West African Writers of African Origin. And I would like to honor the president, Dr. Bill, who is also present, and our VP, Rena Jones. Thank you for coming. We have a visitor, a guest today, not other than Dr. Lusia, who is on Rumbi Chen's One-on-One. This is a program we've started, so we get to review some of important trailblazers in our society. So today we'll be talking about pharmacogenomics. And we are excited because precision medicine can never be sounded louder than we should know. We should know how medicine works in our bodies. So thank you for coming, Dr. Lucia, and I will give over the stage to Rumbi Chen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I would like to acknowledge the presence here again of our President Power, Dr. Bill, the VP, Raina Jones, and you, of course, Reverend Dr. Ango. And I'm pleased to meet you, Dr. Lusia Fomuso. I'm Rumbi Chen, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to start with this intent. I've been asking myself, this book is intro level, but oh my goodness, no, this is a lot of information. And I'd like you to give a brief introduction of yourself, Dr. Lucia, before we start.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca. I'm really excited to be here just because this topic is super important and very near and dear to my heart. So I'm a pharmacist by training, and I have dabbled in all the different aspects of pharmacy. So retail pharmacy, hospital, consulting, and now I work in pharmaceutical industry. So I can talk about this topic from different lenses, the way it affects different settings, the way it affects us as Africans. So as we talk through pharmacogenomics, I will throw in some little insights as to how this applies to your life, to your personal life. What does this mean? Pharmacogenomics is a big word, and sometimes people just like shy away or run away from it because they don't understand what it is. So my goal in this book was really to simplify it. I know you said it's still a lot, but if you read the book from beginning to end, you realize that I do a lot of repetition of key things, positioning things in specific places to make it easy for someone to remember what was said before. Really bringing it to a level where if someone who has no science background picks up the book and reads it, it gives you a nice overview of what you should know about the topic. But I'll stop there and let you start with your questions.
Thank you. And to start with, you just said it's a big word, and yes, it is. So my first question is, may you explain to our audience? I've read the book. I now know what it is. I didn't know. Honestly, I had no idea what this was about. I'm like, what is pharmacogenomics? But now I know. So now may you please explain in layman terms what it is?
Absolutely. So pharmacogenomics is really figuring out how your body, how your specific genes, the genes that you got from your mom and your dad, how do they affect the way your body is going to respond to a medicine? Even siblings, even family members can have different variants to their genes that make them respond differently. I'll give you an example. You have a sister who has a headache and they take pain medication and it works perfectly for them. But you take the pain medication and you realize, oh, well, my headache is really not going away. Something wrong with me. And you're wondering, maybe you didn't take the right dose. Well, you could be correct. That could be the case. It could be that there's something in your genes. There's a variant. There's a polymorphism. I'll try to use simpler words to make sure everyone in the audience really understands. If there's something that has changed in your genes, it can cause you to react very, very differently to a particular medication. So this is really what pharmacogenomics is about. It's about diving in and seeing, why is it that someone took this medicine and had an adverse event or had a side effect and ended up in the hospital because they had hives, because their muscles were aching? Why did they react differently than the other person who took it and everything was fine? I'm sure as I'm talking now, you're probably thinking about different things. Maybe a family member that you know who took something and had a reaction, or a family member that took a cancer medication that works for every cancer patient, but it didn't work for them. You're probably thinking about those kind of scenarios. And yes, you're right. That could be about pharmacogenomics. It could be about something else, but pharmacogenomics is just that extra tool in your toolbox to bring up to your doctor and say, hey, I'm not responding to my medication the way I should be. Could there be a genomic aspect to this? Should we run a genomics test so that we're properly picking the right medication for me? That's where patients and families, that's how you can utilize this knowledge going forward.
I like how you've unpacked it because it becomes really digestible. You see, all things come together to say that is why this person is we had to prescribe a different medication because they were having such and such an adverse reaction. Okay, now you've got more than 20 years of experience in this field, and you speak on big platforms, the TED Talks. And what has kept you going in this? Because sometimes you get worn out by the same, not passion per se, but you get worn out. But it seems you keep, scaling. What is it that drives you to share this with the world?
That's a very deep question, and I will answer in different ways. This is something I'm really passionate about, and because I'm passionate about it, it's going to be hard for me to stop talking about it. But also, the impact it has on the community, on people. I have so many stories of people who have done a pharmacogenomics test and it transformed their health, like totally transformed their health. And so knowing that information, there is no way I can sit quiet and not continue to talk about this, because especially in our African communities, there is a huge gap that needs to be closed when it comes to medication selection, so drug selection, individualization, what it means for precision medicine. I'll give you an example. In countries like Cameroon, when someone has a heart attack, a stroke, or any kind of cardiovascular disease, a lot of times they get put on a medication called warfarin. And as I say that right now, a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, yes, I know that. Warfarin or Coumadin is an anti-clotting agent. And so it helps to prevent clustering of fat in your blood vessels that cause you to have a stroke or a heart attack or anything like that. Well, about 40% of Africans have a variant to the gene that metabolizes that drug. But that is the highest prescribed clotting agent in most African countries. And then we wonder why people end up having a second heart attack, why people end up having a second stroke, or why someone just all of a sudden dies without warning. And you think they're on medication to prevent a clot. But that is where we come in, right? With the pharmacogenomics knowledge to step in and say, hey, maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Maybe if we can implement some of these things in our countries or in our settings, it can totally transform a lot of people's lives. So to answer your question, these are the reasons why I do not stop talking about this. I can't stop talking about this.
I wish we had all the African heads of health departments in this, in this specific launch. As you're known as a medication safety pharmacist, we talk of medication safety throughout the book. What's the most overlooked issue, not by us general people, but by people in decision making, like the pharmacists or even the doctors? What is, because I know there's a profit element in all these medication issues. So what's the most overlooked issue?
I think right now the most overlooked issue is the fact that we want to use a cookie cutter approach. We think what works for A has to work for B. We think, I'll give you an example, for example, with insurance companies, right? They will have a formulary that says when you have X disease, you must start by taking X drug first. And if you've used that drug for at least 6 months and it doesn't work, then we may consider paying for something else. Well, these decision makers are following numbers, right? Because they're trying to not pay too much money for that medicine. But guess what? Your top drug could not be working for that patient, and you have wasted money, the money you're trying to save, you have wasted it paying for a medicine that person is not responding to. So that's kind of a key point for leaders in the space of maybe paying or decision making or formulary making, to now take a step back and look at it with wider eyes and go, if I pay for someone's pharmacogenomic test, am I in the long run saving money for my company? Am I in the long run saving money for the country? Because healthcare costs a lot, right? Medication errors or side effects cost billions of dollars in many countries. So in the US, it's about $528 billion every year. So can you imagine in other countries how that adds up? So when you ask that question about leaders, that's a very good question. So people in position to make decisions, they need to take a step back and just figure out, how does this particular topic play a role in the decisions they're making, in the rules they're putting in place, in the guidelines they're putting in place?
Oh, you just answered my other questions, but now let's just touch on that insurance thing. Insurance and discrimination go hand in hand. Won't this increase someone's chances, after getting tested, of being discriminated against?
So there is, well, in the US, there is something called GINA, which is Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act. But of course, we are not foolish. We do know that even in situations where those kind of rules have been put in place, there's still a chance for people to be discriminated against. The one thing we can do for ourselves is advocate for ourselves. If you see something wrong, if you're looking at a situation and it does not make sense, don't stay quiet. You need to make sure you speak up for yourself. For example, if you walk into a hospital and you realize that someone says, oh, you had a genomics test done, and so I don't want to go down a particular route for that reason. That could be a good thing, but you're absolutely right. There could be some bias there. And I'll say this in terms of pain medication. Africans, or in general, Black people, have a prevalence of about 40% to a particular enzyme that's called CYP2D6 enzyme. That particular enzyme activates most pain medication. So something like codeine, everybody has heard of codeine, or tramadol. Those are pain medications that are commonly used, and they're prodrugs. A lot of Africans, or a lot of Black people, do not have the right composition of their genes to activate that pain medication. So what will happen is, if you can activate it, they can give you the highest dose of that pain medication, and you're going to be sitting there telling them, I am not getting relief. I still feel a lot of pain. And if someone doesn't take the time to stop and look at your genes and say, oh yes, this person is potentially not activating this drug into the active form, they're truly not getting pain relief. It takes someone to stop and look at that and make sure that you're not being discriminated against in terms of, have they given you the right thing? But also, have they now decided that, oh, this person is not metabolizing pain medication, so we don't know what to give them, we'll just leave them in pain. So bias comes in different aspects of this, and you're right. But that's where, as a patient, as a family member, you come in to ask the right questions and probe and ask more questions until you get answers that make sense.
Well, to ask the right questions, we need your confidence, the kind of confidence that you have to ask those questions. Because once you're in these spaces, then you shrink out. So we do need that kind of confidence that you have. I'm sure everyone who will read this book can challenge, the system, in their right space. Now, I want you to reiterate the importance of pharmacogenomics in personalized medicine in relation to this statement that I'm about to say.
Okay.
Once a service or product is personalized, the next thing we are thinking, it's expensive. That's it. Anything personalized, customized, it's expensive because it's premium sort of. It's how accessible is this to the person on the street?
So this is definitely a big issue right now. Access to the testing is not where it should be. In the US, for example, some insurance companies still don't pay for it. And if you're going out of pocket, it could cost between $300 to $500 to get this test done for yourself. So that is a huge gap. And that is something that makes me continue to talk about this, because if we get more insurance companies that are paying for this, then we get more benefits from it. In African countries, we can see that this is actually not being really used. So again, this is another gap. This is another area of opportunity. Let's call it that. This is another area of opportunity. This is another area where if we can get these services, get these testing kits, the companies, the NGOs who are helping out in the different countries to fund the testing, to fund the trials that need to be done. As a clinician, when I see clinical studies that come out, and when you look at the details, 3%, 5% of that study was Blacks or Africans, it is mind-blowing for me, because those medications get taken to our African countries and used there, but they were not really tested in that population. So that's where you start thinking, okay, how do we know how the people will react? So this, a call for action for me is really highlighting that cost is definitely an issue, and the way we can help out is the big companies, the NGOs, the people who have the funds to fund this kind of testing in underserved areas. That should become a priority, because in the long run, it will not cost as much as we think. It would actually save a lot of money for the families, for systems, for countries even.
Okay, I'm thinking recently we just saw some sort of testing being dished out to Zimbabweans from the US, and people are wondering, why us? How are we selected for this? For this vaccine of some sort, and all these questions. I'm just thinking this book answers so many questions that we see on a daily, but we actually don't know how to address these. And that just about answers it. And it raises all these ethical and social issues. We've talked about insurance, the profits. In one line, what is the biggest ethical issue that needs an urgent attention to encourage the uptake of pharmacogenomics by the leaders in Africa?
For me, I still go back to the fact that we are not treating everybody the same. We are not assuming that what works for person A will work for person B. We don't want to be doing that. We want to be looking at each person as that person, as a person who comes with their own sets of genes, as a person who comes with their own health information. And so when you're looking at that person, look at that person not as a number, not as I'm just checking off something that I've been asked to check off, but as a human being who has specific genetic variants that need to be looked at specifically. That is my one-liner. Well, that'll probably end up being a two-liner, but
it can be 2 lines.
Yes.
Oh, I need to take a very huge breath, because you mentioned tramadol, just to take you back. And I know someone very close to me, they said all these other pain relief are not working, and he needs tramadol. And now I'm thinking, but the symptoms have not even gone down. Mm-hmm. So we will need to revisit, the GP and have that sorted. Unfortunately, we don't have pharmacogenomics testing in Zimbabwe at the moment. But what to do?
Definitely.
I'm trying to make it. Yeah, go on.
No, I was saying that's definitely an area opportunity area for investors to really explore how to get this into our African countries. Absolutely.
You've explained about your passion and the time you've taken to give us these basic. It says basics, but you need I feel like I had a whole degree from this book. You give a clear focus, on how the genetic differences influence individual responses, right? So in doing that, you juxtapose the history. You take us to the history to understand, and you also talk about the future in this field. And you explain and you express so much hope for the future to say, if we could do this, if we could do that. Can we incorporate the impact of technology? Do you think that will change anything in how this is accepted and, yeah, by the global community?
Absolutely. If you pair artificial intelligence, for example, with pharmacogenomics in health systems, mind-blowing. The effect will be mind-blowing because you can feed into a system telling it, these are the variants that I worry about in this area, for example. And now AI can take that pharmacogenomics information and run through the health system and bring you back information and say, hey, I have identified dangerous drug interactions in XYZ patients based on this genomics information you've given me. Maybe you need to revisit this patient's medications and reorder something else. Or even dosing errors. It can help to flag the system and say, so AI can now use that and flag the system to say, hey, I have identified 50, 100 patients who are on the wrong dose because they have done their genomics testing and I have cross-referenced it with this information and I can tell you that they're on the wrong dose of medication. It's making those recommendations now easier. So now the work that one human could take days to get done, if you now incorporate AI with this, imagine it can analyze hundreds, millions of data to bring information to clinicians or to even patients. So there is a lot of room for growth and expansion where it comes to how pharmacogenomics can be paired with other things.
You talk of data, and issues of data, we talk of privacy and people selling people's data, how protected, because once I have my genetic profile out there, what's the safeguard that's there to ensure that my information remains private?
So I can talk about how it is in the US, but the GINA I talked about before, the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, was put in place to protect people from any kind of discrimination as regards their genes. Our genetic information is deeply personal to us, to our health. So we must protect it. We have to protect it. And so, for example, when you get a pharmacogenomics test done, it's a kit, you get it, you swab your cheek, you put it in the mail, it goes to a lab, and then you now get a report that comes back outlining everything. So your question is, what is happening to this information now that is out there? It should be used just to make proper decisions for your health. It should not be used for any other reason. And those acts, so like something like GINA protects that.
I want to go to the chart. Thank you for that. Arena is mentioned that recruitment of Blacks, I'm just taking you back. Recruitment of Blacks in clinical trials is a major challenge due to lack of trust. And unfortunately, the drugs aren't created with findings from our communities. Is there a way that we can, not in the government, but is there a way where we can put an end to it and say, we will not accept these drugs because we need testing? Is there a way to make it not compulsory per se, but at least have a sample, from, I know they do some sampling and all, but is there a way to regulate that? If we're going to be donating these, at least have a certain percentage of this genetic testing done. Can they incorporate that into these trials? Is there a way to enforce that by law?
So the answer is definitely not to turn away drugs, because then that leaves us without any resources at all, right? The answer is, number one, educating our people, understanding what their worry is about participating in trials, number one, because there's some times where the trials are available and then our people get worried and scared and they turn down the trial or they don't want to participate for several reasons. They're worried about, am I being a guinea pig for some strange new medication? Am I being exposed to something dangerous because they're testing it out for safety in us instead of the people who are going to use it? There are a lot of questions around that. And of course, it's going to only come with proper education, transparency when it comes to these trials. What are you using? What are the details of these drugs? The genetic test you're doing, whatever it is. Proper explanation, proper education of our Black communities, I think will make them more confident in participating in clinical trials. We can't, as a health system, just say, we have tried to do clinical trials in the Black community and they don't want to participate. That is not very accurate, because I think a lot of Black people want to participate in these studies. And a lot of times companies that carry out studies, it brings a huge benefit, right? Most pharmaceutical companies, when they're doing a study, they provide patients with standard of care. So the normal medications that you were supposed to be taking that maybe you cannot afford, when you're in a study, that study covers all of that. So there's a huge benefit there as well. But a lot of this information is kept in silos, is kept locked away, and many Black people don't know. And because their questions are not getting answered, their worries are not getting clarified, they choose to just not participate. That's one aspect. The other aspect is the information is not even brought to us at all. It's kept in certain communities, in certain societies, and so we never find out until that medication or the drug is already out in the public, and now we are prescribed it and we're taking it, not knowing what it does to our bodies. So it's definitely a lot of things that play in this space. But again, one of the reasons why we don't stop talking about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to continue talking about it. Like I was just telling Dr. Ango, when we were discussing this book for the first time, I'm like, wait a minute, I feel like I'm a toddler. I'm learning, I'm starting to walk, with the type of like revelation that I got from this book. And you mentioned here the word proper care, where are you getting tested? Are there any like backdoor testing facilities? What would you know before testing? Like, how do you know this approved tester? How do you protect yourself also from going to the wrong tester?
That's a very good question. In the US, it's easy, right? You have kits that have been FDA cleared. It's easy to be able to identify something that's coming from the Black market. But in our African countries, you're absolutely right. We need to put safeguards in place to make sure that when someone's doing that pharmacogenomics test, the results they're getting is actually what the results are. So again, that is an opportunity for growth. And that is where investors, we have room to implement some very powerful change in our African countries in that space. Absolutely.
As you're talking, you're answering some of my questions. And now I'm going to pick from what you said. You mentioned standard of care. What might the future standard of care be like if pharmacogenomics is widely adopted? I don't know how many years from now, but let's discuss that future standard of care.
So your genes don't change. Your genes will be the same. The way we interpret the genes might change as science is changing, but your genes will be the same. So once your genes are collected and kept in, for example, your health record, and now it's widely implemented, as you rightly said, drug selection will become super easy. Let me give you an example. If you have a baby, a child, and you've done the pharmacogenomics test, think about a world where that child will never take any medication that is not good for them, that will not be metabolized by their body. They don't have to deal with any side effects associated with those medications that are doing absolutely nothing for them. When you to simmer with that for a minute and just imagine what that means, because year in, year out, we pour a lot of toxic chemicals into our bodies for different reasons, because you absolutely need it. If you have cancer and you need to take a cancer medication, you don't think you have a choice. You're trying to get better. But what if that medication is not even working because you have a polymorphism, a variant, a gene variant, where you're not even gaining anything from the medicine? Now you've spent money and you're still not getting a benefit. So the future of doing pharmacogenomics is streamlining drug selection, making it individualized so that a specific person is sure that they're getting what's right for them, reducing side effects, so adverse drug reactions. Someone, for example, most people take statins, so things like atorvastatin, rosuvastatin, but a lot of people, about 20% of people, end up with muscle cramps, muscle pain, and that medication is used for cholesterol, by the way, and most people will take it at nighttime because your body makes cholesterol in the night, and you wake up, you have cramping in your muscles, you're hurting, because you're on the wrong dose of that medicine. Because, for example, Africans, like I said, about 20% of Africans need a lower dose of a statin. And so with a pharmacogenomics test that you have done, your doctor can be able to properly dose you. That eliminates the side effects. And just in general, making sure that we're spending money on things that make sense for our health. I think that will be the final point for me.
And you give a lot of case studies and statistics in your book. Sharon here says she loves the statistics you are sharing. So thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. So, and that's another, I'm hoping to add an addition to my book where I talk about more prevalence, because that's an area that I realize is a gap in the book. I think it's more impactful when people understand how it affects them. How many percent of Black people show up with that variant? How many percent of Latin people show up with that variant? How many percent of white people show up with a particular variant? So that's definitely something I would love to add in a different edition of the book.
You, and we'll go and look for that book when it comes out. And now we've talked about the benefits mostly. So what are the risks associated with relying on a genetic testing?
At this point, the main risk I would say would be your genetic information ending up in the wrong hands. But otherwise, I don't see any other reason. There's nothing for you to lose to get your whole genome sequencing done, to understand how to properly dose your medication, how to properly be prescribed the correct medication. So that's my thought there.
There's a word that you mentioned in your book, nutrigenomics. Is it nutrigenomics? And these days, there are all these fab diets and all. Can you just take us through the significance in that space?
Nutrigenomics is really pharmacogenomics, but very specific to things like vitamins. So like vitamin C, A, B, the different vitamins, because there are some people as well who are not metabolizing in the same way. So that's really pharmacogenomics specifically for vitamins and nutrients and things like that. Yeah, it's the same concept.
So we can safely say, because once you see on Facebook or Instagram, do this, I did this to lose weight, I did this. So it's not a one size fits all, because you end up wasting money. So I think you'd rather spend your money on the testing and get the right thing in the long run, right?
My work here is done. You have put your finger on the pulse. Yes.
I'm a good student. And I know you talk of cardiology, psychiatry, and I want to point oncology, because there are a lot of cancer cases, not like globally. In Africa, it's so many cancer issues going on. So can you explain the significance to oncology?
Pharmacogenomics has a lot of benefits in the oncology space. And actually, that's one area that has really picked up on it and is really using it, which is wonderful, because oncology drugs are not only expensive, they're also very, very harsh on the body. A lot of the side effects are just really terrible. Like you lose all of your hair, you end up with infections in the hospital. So you really don't want to be giving someone a medication that's going to cause all of those side effects but not work at all. But also in the aspect of even drug targets, pharmacogenomics has the opportunity to be a very good way to identify people who show up with pancreatic cancer, for example. Is there something specific in their genes that predisposes them to this kind of cancer? And once you can identify that, now it's easy to make a drug to target that gene. So research can really benefit from this as well. So it's not only the aspect of making sure that what's already out there is given to the right person, it's the fact that we can now use it to really tailor the research we're doing, looking for new medications for different kinds of cancers. Yeah.
I see a big clash here because, the people, okay, I don't want to say the people because you're a pharmacist, but there is a clash. People want to be treating cancers, whichever way that brings more money. Yes, there's a profit element. So that's the whole dilemma. There's a profit element, but here you are coming with pharmacogenomics. It's going to improve the effectiveness of these treatments. But at the same time, we want people to rely on the medications. So I feel like there's a constant tug of war there. I don't know.
You're right. And I don't think that's going to ever completely go away, but I think pharmacogenomics gives a lens into how we can responsibly do it, how we can transparently do it. Yeah.
Transparency. All right, transparency. And for the person who, like a teenager or someone in high school who wants to follow your path, can you just give that person some knowledge? It just came to my mind right now that we need more people like you.
And so pharmacogenomics is not only a pharmacist thing. It is everybody's thing. Everyone can do a certification on pharmacogenomics if they wanted to learn more about it. Everyone can start a business that does pharmacogenomics testing. Everyone can do some kind of research. So as someone in academia, you can contribute in this space. As someone in IT, you can contribute in this space. As someone who's a business person, you can contribute in this space. An investor. So this is definitely not only for the healthcare people. So if you're out there and you're listening to this topic and going, okay, well, that's a healthcare thing, I don't care. No, please listen, because there is room for everyone to contribute in this space. You can be the next decision maker that changes a formulary for a plan to now incorporate testing. You can be a business person in the future that funds a project for pharmacogenomic testing that will go and impact the greater future. But if you're specifically wanting to do it in the healthcare lens, that's also amazing. And as a nurse, as a pharmacist, as a medical doctor, you can get a gene educator certification. You can get a genomic information certification. There's so many ways you can add this to what you're already doing or what you want to do.
And I understand you're a coach, so, in the audience, anyone who wants more information, they can visit your website, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned doctors and clinicians. So what is the biggest misconception that clinicians have about pharmacogenomics?
I think a lot of them are not seeing the importance of it yet. It's picked up drastically from 2020 when I first started dabbling in this space. This book I published 2 years ago, but I had been working on parts of this book from 2021. And I can tell you that from that time till now, there's a huge uptake in the psychiatry space, in the oncology space, in the cardiology space. It's definitely transformed a lot of things. Let me highlight in the psychiatry space, because that's also an area where Africans or Black people in general have high variance. So again, about 40% have a genetic variant to a specific gene called CYP2D6. That gene metabolizes a lot of psychiatric medication. So someone is depressed or they're anxious and they've gone through a death in the family and they're having problems coping and they needed to get some medication. A lot of times there's one or two specific medications that automatically your doctor would give them. But guess what? 40% of us not metabolizing it. That medication, the specific one I'm talking about, is called Prozac or fluoxetine for those who know the name of it. So can you imagine if 40% of people are not metabolizing properly, yet the first thing that a doctor does is order that medication for someone? Is it surprising why suicide rates are high? Why people are still going through depression 3, 4, 5 years later? So I do think clinicians have a lot of growing to still do, but there has been uptake in the area. There has been a change in the trend. There's been a change in the ordering patterns. And I'm hoping that as time goes on, clinicians continue to understand the importance of this for their patients. So that was a long answer, but hopefully giving you the scenarios and the example makes sense.
Yes, it sure helped that you framed it that way. Now I want to go a little outside, like literally outside. You mentioned that in your part 2, you want to talk more of prevalence. So in you writing the second book, are you working with like governments, or if it's classified information, you don't need to mention, but are you integrating with policymakers, etc., in coming up with a book too?
With my second one, I am still in the beginning stages, so not much to disclose there, but I want to work more with different populations. So to incorporate how this plays in effect and go granular as to, you see how I've been pointing out the granular details as it affects us Africans or Black people, highlighting how it affects the other areas and just really pulling that together. It would be wonderful to get input from some decision makers in that book. So that's a very great suggestion you just made.
And regarding this current book, which audiences do you have that data? Which audiences have connected the most with your book? Like, is it patients, pharmacists, or us, or students?
I have had a lot of communication from pharmacy students. It has been interesting to get the excitement from them asking more questions about this and saying, well, hey, I'm in pharmacy school right now and we barely scratched the surface on this topic and things like that. I have had some pharmacists as well who have sent me messages and say, hey, I now use your book in my practice. It helps me and guides my conversation when I'm talking to my patients. I have had some patients who have actually stumbled on the book, but like you had mentioned earlier, they said they were happy to get the basics of the information, but they still felt like it was a lot of information. So that was one of the reasons why I did my TEDx talk on pharmacogenomics. It was my effort to kind of simplify the information again, really simplify it to where even a fifth grader can understand the information. That I've had varied amounts of interest from different groups of people.
And talking about the TEDx, I enjoyed, like when I'm listening, I said, what do I need? Listen first or read the book? What do I need to do? And I'm glad I did both. And now it's the basics, yes. But what's the chapter that you feel is the most important for a beginner to understand? Maybe someone says, I don't have time, I don't like reading. Where would you point them to?
In this book, the first and the second chapters really just simplify the basics you should know. The different terms. What do we mean when we say genes, genotype? What do we mean when we say pharmacogenomics even? So for someone who's just wanting to get that base, the first 2 chapters are great. The next chapters, I start diving into the different disease states and just just talking high level and still remind you of some of the things I touch in the first and second chapters. And then also the very last chapter that talks about future path. That's definitely an area where we can focus on as someone who doesn't know anything. It will help you to understand the future direction and how it can apply to your life.
I'm about to invite the audience, but before that, I want to take you way back when you were younger. So what drew you to this field in the first place?
To pharmacy. So
Yes.
I have a cousin who passed away some years ago because he was given the wrong dose of anesthesia. So he never even got to go through the surgery because they had dosed him wrong for anesthesia. That stuck with me. For many years, I kept asking myself, how did that happen? What role do I have now to make sure that doesn't happen to somebody else? That was one of the main reasons that solidified my love for pharmacy. And now, hence why you can understand why medication safety is a big deal for me, because that is an area that touches not only the financial part, but also a lot of families' lives. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about your cousin, and oftentimes those cases, we have them in our communities, but because we don't know, you know, and anyone who reads the book will know to say, you mentioned you should advocate for yourself. You should ask the right questions. So I'm hoping that we'll have a link for the book. Dr. Ango, maybe you can have us their website so people can, go and buy the book as we finish. Now, I would like you to say anything you want in one line regarding the future. You've mentioned AI. You're so future forward in this book. Just one line before we invite the audience.
I think my one line would just be that every single person in this audience today needs to ask themselves, how can pharmacogenomics transform my life and my family's life?
Thank you. Well, people, thank you. You've been with us from the beginning. Now I'm inviting everyone to join and ask questions.
Okay, so before you ask your questions, just try to put them in the chat. I didn't play the TEDx at the beginning. It's quite short, it's just 5 minutes, because I wanted her to talk before I give you. So right now I'll play it while you write your questions, and then you can actually reflect on it. So there you go. Oh, sorry, the sound is off.
You might need to share your other screen.
The screen.
Oh, I'm still not sure.
As a certified pharmacogenomics specialist, I want to introduce you to pharmacogenomics, why you should care about it, and how it can benefit you.
The screen is not being shared. Now, that's good.
Okay.
Get to full screen mode, that will be fine.
Hello, everybody. As a certified pharmacogenomics specialist, I want to introduce you to pharmacogenomics, why you should care about it, and how it can benefit you. In the US, we are extremely fortunate to have access to medication therapy through our very well-established healthcare system. However, did you know that most medication therapies are based on trial and error? The way your body will react to a medicine is really a mystery until you take it and it either works or it doesn't. On the safety aspect, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, notes that Side effects from medication therapy is responsible for over 1 million emergency room visits every single year. Pharmacogenomics is a very easy way to eliminate the trial and error and also significantly reduce the incidence of adverse drug reactions. So, what is this pharmacogenomics? The CDC defines it as a gene test to find out how a person's DNA will affect their response to medicine. Think of someone who's suffering from pain, and even at the maximum dose of their pain medication, they're still suffering. And sometimes the label pill seeker is assumed when the only problem could be that variants in this person's genes is causing the medication to work either too slowly or too fast. Most pain medications require activation in the body to work the way they're supposed to. So poor activation means inadequate pain relief. A pharmacogenomics test can help to identify and fix this. Who here doesn't know someone suffering from some form of cancer? Can you imagine personalizing chemotherapy so you can maximize effectiveness and reduce toxicities, hence reduce side effects? A pharmacogenomics test can help to identify the right cancer drug in the right dose for the right patient, and this is supported by the Mayo Clinic. In current times, a lot of people are suffering from anxiety or maybe depression from the pandemic, life difficulties, or monkeypox. And it usually takes weeks or months of trial and error to find the right medication and get people feeling better in time. A pharmacogenomics test can help to narrow the list of trial and error medications and help to get people to the state of happiness a little bit faster. Gene testing my mom was life-changing for my family. Her test results showed that she has a variant that lowers her sensitivity to a common anticoagulant called warfarin. You see, she's a post-stroke patient, so anticoagulation or stopping blood clots is crucial to preventing a repeat stroke. Knowing her test results, I was able to ensure she's on the right therapy, and this is peace of mind for myself and my family members. Pharmacogenomics plays a big role in other areas, obesity, heart disease, and your healthcare team can help you navigate all of this. Most people who come to me for testing are usually concerned about what's going to happen to their gene test after the fact. Is it going to affect their healthcare premiums? Is it going to affect their employment? Well, you'll be happy to know that the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, GINA, was enacted in 2008 to prevent any discrimination based on genetic information. So here's our take-home message. With a simple cheek swab, we can identify variants to save millions of lives, billions of dollars, and uncountable hours wasted on inadequate therapies. By gene testing yourself and your family, you are breaking through and taking control of your medication health. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, thank you. I see all the hearts and the love. Thank you. I should have been looking in the
It was brilliant. So questions? There's nothing in the chat yet.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Hi, Reina.
Hi, Dr. Fomuso. This has been so great. I want to hear more about, like, how does this, so where do we start, right? Like, you said that you can go to different places and get this testing, but once you get it done, then what do you do? You take it to the doctor and say, hey, treat me this way. How's it work?
That's a good question. You can actually start with your doctor. You can start there and say, hey, I've been taking all of these medications. Yes, sometimes I feel great, sometimes I don't. Can we just look at it and make sure everything I'm taking makes sense? Can we start by doing a pharmacogenomics test to make sure that what I'm even on is stuff I should be on? When it starts from them, it might actually be an easier pill to swallow. But yes, you can also go the other way, get the test done, bring it to them and say, hey, doc, I got this done. Here are the results. Can we look at my medication and see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted? So you can go either route. And that's your right. I think for us, sometimes we feel that doctors are gods. Clinicians are human. We make mistakes too. And that's where your voice is super important. Not being afraid to say, hey, I know you're busy, but let's take another moment and look at this. Yeah.
And you're saying that they're pretty receptive to this dialogue. And the reason why I'm asking is because I know like they have their trained way of,
Yeah.
doing medicine, practicing medicine. So
a lot of them are not receptive.
Standard, and then you come in and you say, hey, obviously you can say, can we do a smaller dose? Obviously that, you can do that, but I'm just wondering what this would look like going in with the full test. Basically, it's like you're coming in with some information, right? Some science, right? And
yes. No, that's why starting with your doctor will always be an easier way to go. But I don't want it to discourage someone from getting it done somewhere else either. They're not always going to be receptive to the information. That's true. But then that's where you have to advocate for yourself. Like that advocacy is very important. You stand there and say, hey, doc, I know this is probably going to need some extra time. You don't have to answer today. Can you take a look at this and let's talk about it the next time I come in? That it could be just that, but you have to make sure you have that conversation. Don't feel sorry for the doctor and not feel sorry for yourself. You are your number one priority. They might not like it. Well, guess what? They're going to have to deal with it.
That's right. Thank you.
Oh, I see we have a hand out. Yes.
Hey, hi, doctor.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much for the great presentation. I want to commend the host as well, who was very, very comprehensive in the way she asked her questions and the very, very tiny details that she brought out. So that was great. The topic of pharmacogenomics and generally high tech, what I've come to understand is high tech comes with a lot of power dynamics, right? So the higher technology goes, the more there's the asymmetry, the power dynamic becomes really, really big. And for communities, the underserved communities, a term generally I don't like because it gives people a certain limitation in their mindset. These communities, you always have the situation where, like you mentioned, they are always preyed upon either for data or, all these other things that eventually, turn, the big companies turn all of that into billions and the money never comes back. And I don't know if international organizations that have a set of rules written out is quite enough to protect those communities, because you can have the rules, but if you don't have the resources to enforce those rules, it doesn't really matter. And the big pharma has the money to do whatever they like. They can bring the rules, bring you a 500-page document, NDA or whatever they call it. Who's going to read it? Your grandmom in the village is never going to read all of that, right? So what do you think would be a good strategy to if there's actually a way that can, tip the power dynamic just a little bit. It's difficult to level the playing ground, but what would be a great way that you think could significantly help these people who would not be able to defend themselves? Because genomic data, frankly, I think it can go lower than that when it comes to getting information from people. How can they really protect themselves effectively against something like that?
You're spot on. And this is something that we are not going to have a quick fix to, because this is a problem that has been there for years. It's probably going to be there for another years. But hey, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? We can only take baby steps to figure this out. But what I fear is, let's not get so scared and worried that we're left out of the movement. And it's not only a movement. I hate that I even called it that. This is super important for people's health, because the fact that we get so scared and worried about being preyed on has made us to maybe sit out of rooms or off of tables that we should have been sitting on. And that's why I say everyone in this room. So you listening to what I said today, you can be that person to take the information to your grandma that you talked about. You have probably, I give this example all the time. You may have a family member, because I have family members back home who don't even understand that you should not take your blood pressure medication with beer. They remember, oh, I didn't take my blood pressure medicine today. Oh, I have a beer in my hand. Let me just take it, and they go. But if we're not the ones now who understand the health challenges there, and we advise them on how to properly position themselves. Hey, when you go to that clinic, once you've bribed your nurse, because we all know how it happens in our countries, when you've bribed your nurse to get you to the front of the line, ask questions. Ask them, what tests are you running for me? Can I see what this is? I'm not trying to challenge you, Ma. I am really just wanting to understand. So when I go back home, I want to understand what it is that was done for me. Get clarity on the tests that are being run. You're right. If I get a 20, 30-page document, not even 500, do I read it? Not always, but get a copy of it. And someone can help read it for you or give you the information. Now we have AI. Again, you can feed that document into Notebook LM, and it's going to make a nice short little audio version of what's in that document for you. We leverage all the tools in our toolbox, like I mentioned before, to start taking steps forward. If we use this to be a reason to avoid leveraging the benefits of this, we're only going to hurt ourselves, sadly. But you're spot on. Everything you said is spot on. What our part is to ask, how can I take a step forward while still protecting myself and my family? Hopefully that gave you some peace, but we don't have an answer or a quick fix solution yet to this.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, so I'm talking from a place of seeing what big tech, for example, has been able to do with data, right? Yeah. And it at the individual level, it's very difficult to do anything really about it.
Yes,
and so
you hear me continuously talking about this topic, because the more we talk about it, the more we get on platforms and talk about it. The reason why I went to a TED Talk to talk about things like this, that's why the conversation does not end. Because if we just fold our arms and say, no, this thing is not going to take, it's not going to land right, we lose. We end up missing out. But yes, what are our leaders saying about this? Those of you who are, that's why I said it's not only for the healthcare people, someone in here who is big in politics, how can you move the needle as a politician for pharmacogenomics? Someone who is in law, how can you move the needle for pharmacogenomics in law? So that's why it was a call of action to everyone in the public, everyone in here, and everyone that you're going to go talk to. So the people you talk to, your network is probably very, very wide. The people you talk to, what tools do they have that they can help to move the needle on this and help out, because we don't want to just worry and not move the needle. We want to continuously slightly move that needle. Sorry, I think I interrupted you. You were going to ask something else.
I am actually thinking it starts with a TED Talk, and then it goes into a writers association where we organize such presentations and expect people to join. There are 100 members, and we can't do it individually. And if they start joining and participating, they would take it to their spaces. So we have this stone rolling out already, and that's how we have to continue, right? So we're getting it. So I think Mirabel has a question.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hey.
Very interesting topic. I actually spelled it pharmacogenetics. Just to Google and see it's similar but not the same. Yes, my question was like, whose responsibility, if I hadn't attended your talk?
What?
Something happened.
Something happened.
To the waiting room.
Oh.
Let me see if I click admit if it works. Mirabel, are you back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello? Mira. Oh, for some reason you went out. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Oh, sorry. For some reason you went out. So
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
yeah.
Please restart your question.
Yeah, my question was, whose responsibility is it? Like, I don't know how doctors are trained, med school. Is it a big topic in med school? Like when you're treating patients, to look into that? Because as I was saying, I had a case where I was given a blood pressure medication, and then a friend of mine with a cardiologist just looked into it. He's African. I live in a predominantly white area, so the doctor is white, maybe out of ignorance, gave the medication. And when he looked at it, and he said, normally Black people, people of African descent, don't use this medication. If they use this medication, there's supposed to be a second medication against maybe water retention or so. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
So he sent me back to the doctor, and the doctor actually recognized it. I don't know, maybe that could be something like that. I would have gone for weeks or years on the medication, not knowing it wasn't the proper dose or the proper medication for me. So my question is it, just for my understanding, is that a big topic in med school? Do I expect my doctor, when I walk into the office, to request this test? How expensive is it?
Yeah. Mirabel, you just gave an example that is so near and dear to my heart, because those are the things that make pharmacogenomics super important as well. Let me digress for one moment. A lot of Black people are put on the wrong blood pressure medicine. And a lot of times they end up with even up to 4, and we start calling them resistant hypertensives. But they're not, because they were started on the wrong medicine, and that medicine was never taken off. More just kept getting added on. And now when you're on 3 or more, you're qualified as someone that has resistant hypertension. But guess what? It could just be that you were started on the wrong medicine. So your example is prime. And thank God you had a cardiologist who was able to catch that from the start and get that fixed. But to answer your specific question, even pharmacists are not clearly taught about this. We are taught about the receptors and the general enzymes that metabolize, but no one has really tailored a program yet. Well, I think one university now just started a pharmacogenomics program. But medical doctors, pharmacists, nurses, they literally just kind of glimpse at the top of this information. And in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, we've started diving in deeper into this topic and realizing, hey, precision medicine is the way forward. That's why I keep reminding that you have to speak up. So Raina's question for me was super impactful because it brought us to the applicability of how do I apply this information in my life? Where do I start? Go do a test somewhere or go to my doctor? We have to start the conversation because most doctors are not intuitively going to say, hey, let me do a pharmacogenomics test for you. Maybe a psychiatrist will, maybe an oncologist will, but not everybody else. Very important. And cost, you mentioned the cost. Some insurances will pay for it. Now, especially in the US, most insurances are starting to catch on and realizing that if I do a pharmacogenomics test as a standard of care for my group of participants, I might actually be saving myself money in the long run because I'm not wasting time paying for things that are not working for people. But is it catching on everywhere else in the world? No, not yet. And the kit, like I mentioned before, there's a range of prices. There's some that start from $199, goes all the way up to about $500 sometimes. So it could be a lot of money. I've had some people say it's a one-time investment because, like I said, your genes don't change. You do it once. And if you do it with a company that has dynamic reporting, so meaning that it's not going to stop, it's going to keep changing that way. When the way we analyze data changes, you can just go back and run that genetic data and get new information from there. You don't have to keep testing over and over. You have to get your swab done one time. You pay that one-time cost. Hopefully your insurance pays for it because they now understand the importance of pharmacogenomics, and that helps you for the rest of your life. Hopefully that answered your question. I feel like I touched a lot of things.
No, it did. Thank you.
I love that comment, Raina. You're right. Once they realize that you are not just going to sit quiet and say yes, sir, to whatever, yes, doctor, to whatever the doctor said. Once your doctor realizes that you are actually being more involved, they pay more attention as well. My very first TED Talk that I did was a call to action for people or patients. When you go into the pharmacy, into your doctor's office, asking the questions, just ask, hey, I'm here to pick up my X, Y, and Z medicine. Can we just make sure that's what I got? I've had so many incidents of people catching mistakes because they spoke up, because they said something. Even me personally. And I knew what I was looking for. What more of someone who doesn't know what they're looking for? So ask those questions. Oh, I see we have the lab comparison. So this was a comparison I did a few years ago of different labs. It shows you different prices, and it shows you some of the things that were important for me was pulling which labs in the US were allowing pharmacists to order the kit, which ones Medicare was paying for, which ones accept third-party billing from insurance or from your HSA card. So if you have FSA, HSA, which ones were accepting that, which ones had good information, which ones had done clinical trials, the turnaround time. So all of the information you can see there and the number of genes that they were looking at. But that was what was important for me when I was building this table out. Oh, I see Sharon has her hand up. Hi, Sharon.
Hi. Hi, Dr. Lucia. Hi, everyone. Thank you. This has been incredible and very insightful for me. I had more of a comment, and that is it would be incredible to see adoption from the top down, right? So have this part of, preventive care. Just like we have breast cancer screenings, colon cancer, cervical cancer screenings, we have oh, the host wants me to start my video. Okay. Just like we have breast cancer screenings, vaccines for children and adults, right? But I think that's maybe some ways down the line, down the road, because we know that legislation would have to be written, but I think that would be the quickest way to force insurance companies to adopt this, because, like you said, it's gonna save them a lot of money in the long run. And then patients receive relief from their pain or whatever ailment they're suffering from in a much shorter period of time. So that would be the dream. I'm sure you agree.
I 100% agree. It needs to become standard of care. But you're right, things have to be put in place to make sure that people are not taking advantage of. Genetic information is not taken advantage of. Yes, we have Gina here in the US, but what about other parts like my other very smart brother Blaze said? We need to put things in place globally of how we are protecting people's information, but it should not stop us from using pharmacogenomics. It's a call to use it responsibly for healthcare. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great call out. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure, is there a way to like have each individual be the custodian of their genomic data? Or is that like is it like right now people you know you have some organization or the hospital keeps your data? Like how does the data management thing works?
That's a very good point, actually. You're asking, for example, if you have your test done and it goes out into a lab, if once they've run the test, if when they're sending you your results, if they can send you your sample back, is that what you're asking? So you keep it?
So let's say, for example, they sequenced your genome, they have I don't know, the FASTQ file. Do they keep a copy of that, or you have that information given to you and you alone, and you are the only one who can disclose that information subsequently if you need something checked? I don't know, or there's a central database.
There's no central database unless for a specific company. So let me break. I think you've asked several questions. Let me clarify those. So it depends also on how it starts. If your doctor is the one who ordered the test, the results will be sent to your doctor and the doctor will have it in your medication chart. But if you're the one who initiates the test, the results will come to you and now you have the power of who you're sharing with. But then now for the company that does the testing, they are required to keep your information, because what if you lose your information and you ask them, hey, can you send me a copy, and they've destroyed it? You would not like that. So they do have to keep that information for a certain number of years, but that's only in their own database. They're not sharing it with the government or something like that. At least that's what the guidelines of GINA put in place. But it's always true that whatever things are put in place, we do know that things happen outside of that. So we are not going to act like we don't know that. But that's why those things have been put in place to protect us. Hopefully that answers your question. But I think you make a very good point of saying some companies could probably offer to send back your sample, if you want to hold on to that.
Yeah, because I think I read there was one time there's a company that's trying to use blockchain technology to make information like that like extremely private. So you can, what they're trying to do is if you get your genomics done, they kind of lock that information in the blockchain, and you are the only one who can grant access to it when needed, and someone else cannot duplicate it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know where the company is right now, but it was kind of interesting.
That's a great idea. I don't think most companies are doing that, but hey, that's a fantastic idea, and it gives a patient or person more confidence too in being able to do a testing if you're sure your data is secure. Yeah.
That's in fact the now and the future, because that's where cybersecurity and AI has come in to lock into pharmacogenomics, and they are now creating this. So it's also a business idea for anybody who is smart enough to pick it up. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. This has been very, very engaged conversation, which I love. It makes me know that this topic is catching on.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. 12:30 or wherever we are. We've enjoyed. Thank you so much, Chen. You're always doing a great job. You are always doing a great job. We thank Dr. Lucia for coming and actually opening our eyes, enlightening us in all the ways we should go now and try looking into what we can do to get ourselves checked. We want to thank the president for being present and also Rina for being so active, our VP. So we thank everybody. I'll just call the names right down. I thank Dr. Blaze. He's our social media guru. So I know his direction was actually telling us, how can we do this to even be louder than it is now? What can we do? So yeah. And we thank Dr. Isona for coming, Dr. Reverend Kennedy. We thank Maggie Fomuso. We thank Mirabel and Sophie. Thank you so much for being here today. I know some people left already, and we are grateful. Thank you. We're closing for today.
Can you share the link to your book? I don't know.
It's
you can
not in
also
the
share it
group.
on social.
Yes, I did it already in the group.
Just do it again once more. It wouldn't hurt.
As it's in the group. I just said it's in the group in the WhatsApp.
The WhatsApp chat.
Yeah.
Thank you all for having me.
You're having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us a treat.
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they speak French in Liberia, though.
What's that?
That's very international. I didn't know they speak French in Liberia.
Non, moi, je parle français, mais je suis libéré, mais j'ai appris le français, je parle un peu le français. Pas beaucoup.
You see?
Très bien, très bien. Excellent.
All right, thank you, everybody.